This chapter is all about leading group fitness classes, and we'll definitely go over some of this in class because it's easier to show and demonstrate than to describe, but at least you'll be knowledgeable about the information in advance. So there's two different ways of teaching group fitness. One is considered coaching based and the other beat based. And that kind of goes with the idea of using music and whether the music is in the background, which would be coaching based, and whether the music is in the foreground. You're actually using the music to create your routines and to teach, and that's called beat based teaching. So those two differences are you're not using the beat of the music, you have the music in the background, and participants are moving at their own pace versus teaching to the music. And there's pros and cons to each of these, and I'll kind of talk about those as we move along. In the coaching based, just think of that we did like a trial or the circuit training class where you have stations set up and you have music going on and people are moving through the stations in a timed fashion. And then the coach is walking around helping the participants with their movements and providing feedback individually versus more of a beat based. Because you're moving to the beat of the music, the instructor is up demonstrating almost the entire time. And it's sort of a follow along or follow with the instructor. So the instructor performs the majority or all of the movements, and the students are replicating that and so everyone's sort of moving uniformly in the class. There might be some variability in that, like for my class, I do some Tabata intervals, and so people can move at their own pace. There's different pacing going on, but we're all doing the same movements, minus the options that I give, the modifications and progressions. With cueing, cueing is pretty flexible in the coaching based. You don't have to worry about coaching, in time for a particular beat of some sort of movement that's happening. So that anticipatory cueing is not needed versus the cueing on a beat based is extremely important because you have to let people know in advance what to do with the beat. And so there's this anticipatory cueing that you have to get really good at. So it's easy for people to follow along. And that's something I'll have to describe a little bit more when we do it in class with music. Individual performance and effort are encouraged with the coaching based versus group uniformity and performance are encouraged with the beat based. So even though everyone's kind of doing the same thing, I still give options for people, but they definitely look very similar. Obviously, the coaching based is not choreographed versus the beat based can be choreographed to music, where you actually use the chorus and certain parts of the song for different movements. Now there could be completely choreographed, or it could be I'm choreographing. I have an idea of what I'm going to do, but it's a little more flexible. But I'm still using the phrases and the counts and the beats to establish my routine, and it's ongoing, it's constant. We're constantly moving. There's not a lot of breaks. So formats of classes are for coaching based, a high intensity interval training, a boot camp style. A boot camp style could be coaching based. You could also do a boot camp style and beat based, but it does lend itself probably more in the coaching based. Cycling classes are definitely coaching based, sports conditioning, kickboxing. I would say like the kickboxing, we're using like gloves and bags and things like that, but there's also like a cardio kickboxing one that's more to the beat. So you can have two different varieties of boxing or kickboxing that can be done either to the beat or without. And then aquatic exercise can be both categories. The instructor communication, sort of practice style, self-check style, and then the beat base is more command based. You're kind of telling people beat by beat what to do. So ACE uses this R ramp approach, respect, recognition, alignment, mistakes, participant, to talk about teaching group fitness. We'll talk about that kind of line by line a little bit later. So for the coaching based teaching, the style of teaching and self-check style of teaching is driven by the class plan and often utilizes music in the background, not the foreground. And so it encourages participants to move freely. They can move at their own pace and intensity. So again, like we set up those stations for the circuit. Once people get to those stations, they can pick the level of exercise they want to do and how quickly they're doing the exercise. Versus a beat based, there's a beat and you got to stick to that quickness of the beat. So that has to work that way. This provides a supportive environment that celebrates effort and participation. So practice style of teaching provides opportunities for individualization and one-on-one instructor feedback. Each workout is an opportunity to practice, provides participants with the freedom to discover what works best for them via practice. So really gives an opportunity for the person to individualize the exercise that meets best for them. It's also great if the instructor is giving options, the coach is giving options for participants, and then the coach can come around and give one-on-one feedback that's individualized to that person. And then they're practicing and developing. So the self-check style of teaching relies on participants to provide their own feedback, tends to be equipment-based, and participants perform a given task and then review results. So an example of this would be, let's say, in a cycling class where the instructor might be talking about adjusting intensity levels based on the routine that they're doing. So it's really up to the person on the bike to do that. Or it might be where in the class they have heart rate monitors and the participants involved in checking their heart rate. It could be up on the screen and they might have specific goals for themselves and certain results that they're looking for. So it's usually some level of equipment that they have to use, or it could be like rowing machines where they're trying to see feedback on the timing on that. I'm not a big rower, so I don't even know the language on that. But so basically the participants are doing the workout. They're looking at the equipment and they're sort of making this self-feedback on their intensity based on what their results are getting. Additional considerations, you definitely want to utilize cues that address visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners. So you're telling them what to do, you're showing them, and visual is key. Like coaches that just walk around and verbally tell and they're not giving that visual demonstration, people are like, what are you talking about? They might hear the name of the exercise 100 times. They still need to see what you're talking about. So you want to tell them, you want to show them with correct form, and then you have them do it. So, and that can be happening at the same time. So you could be telling while you're showing the exercise so that you can get them to start doing it really quickly and get moving. So they're not standing around watching you talk through it and show it. You can get them moving right away. And again, this part of the doing, I always recommend going like the lower version first and going slower so that they get the right form integrated into their body. And then you can add all those layers of complexity and intensity. So the beat-based teaching is the one where you're doing it to music and it's more of a command style of teaching. So the group fitness instructor is really making all the decisions and seeking, so they're up there leading, and then the students are following along exactly what the instructor is doing. Now, having said that, even though I do this is my style of teaching. I mean, I have done the other style too, but this is my primary one. I'm not expecting them to imitate me exactly, meaning I give options and I show different levels. And then, so it's not that everyone's doing exactly the same thing as me. It's that we are trying to stay in the same exercise each time, but within those exercises, I'm giving different variations and options so that they can customize it. So the effect created is one of uniformity, which is true. We're all kind of doing the same thing to the same beat. However, you can create a scenario in this style of teaching of giving everyone autonomy and ownership and individualizing the workout based on the particular exercise that you're doing. So this is commonly used in choreographed classes because you're going to the beat and you're having a special routine that you're doing. So in the beat-based strategies, you're using the music. So you have to have a sense of musicality and understanding the beats of the music and the musical phrases. And if you don't understand that, it's going to be really challenging for you to teach an effective beat-based class, because the whole philosophy and the whole feeling around it is that the body is moving to the beat of the music, and the routine has to make sense within those phrases and chorus and things like that. So we will go over that in class because it helps to hear the music and to feel the difference with your body when you're moving to the music and when the music starts to change. And you can actually utilize that as a way to increase the intensity and add some fun into the workout. So many instructors teach beat-based classes using a 32 count musical phrase. There's actually special music that is created just for this idea, for this instructors to do beat-based. And I'll share with you the company that I exclusively buy from. It's instructormusic.com. And so they mix like hour-long mixes of music specifically to a beat per minute. And then you can, so they'll have a mix, and then you can choose what beat per minute you want that mix, and you buy it in that beat per minute, and you download it, and you can put it into Apple Music or wherever you have your music, and then it'll just play continuously for an entire hour mixed together, like 15 songs. So basically what you have here with music is that you have 8 counts for 8 counts of 4, so equals 32 counts, and that's considered one phrase. So you can think of the measures A, B, C, D as one sentence. So 4 sentences equals one phrase. So when you're creating your routine, you're utilizing that idea, those counts, to make your exercises work within that framework. And then, so if you listen to music, and just like next time you're listening in your car, now the music you hear in your car could have like weird 4 count breaks and things like that. And the music you use when you teach fitness is not like that. It's like perfectly squared, has the 32 counts. There's no weird breaks or anything like that. But you can still listen to music in your car, and you can capture, like, just when they start singing the chorus, start counting the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, 2, 3, 2. Oops, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Once you've got those 4 8 counts, that's the end of your phrase, and the music should change after that. Something different happens after that 32 counts. Either it goes into an instrumental break, it goes into a chorus, it adds like another layer of some kind of musical, I'm not a big music person. I just like to listen to it for movement, but something's going to happen after that 32 counts, going to shift and change the music. And so you can hear and listen to that. And then you just start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and on it goes. We'll listen to music and do that. So for example, if I was going to be using this beat-based, I would shuffle to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I shuffle to the left. 5, 6, 7, 8. Alternating knees. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, which would be the 9 to 16. Jumping jacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that'd be 4 jumping jacks. And then body weight squats. I would go down, up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that'd be 4 squats. But I'm moving to the beat of the music. So I know if I'm moving to the beat of the music, I can get 4 squats in, and then I'm done with my 8 counts. I can change the timing of this. So if I was doing body weight squats, let's say the music's really fast and that's too quick, I could do what I call like 2 count squats, like 2 counts down, 2 counts up. So if I did that, 2 counts down, 1, 2, 2 counts up, 3, 4, 2 counts down, 5, 6, 2 counts up, 7, 8. So that way I'd be doing 2 squats within 8 counts of that 25 to 32 counts. Hopefully I haven't confused you by now. So I just explained this basically. So I can do single time, which is I'm moving one movement to the beat. So I'm like squatting down, up, down, up, down, up. And I do 16 repetitions. Or I could go super slow, 4 counts down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I had 32 counts of music and I was doing this quarter time, I'd only end up doing 4 repetitions. And doing the half time would be 2 counts down, 2 counts up. You can do this again with push-ups. And I do that all the time. I'll change the timing. Sometimes I'll start off slow. Okay, let's do push-ups, slow motion, down, slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, up, 5, 6, 7, 8. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I'll do push-ups in 2 counts. Down for 2, up for 2. Down for 2, up for 2. And I finish with single counts. 8, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So that's great with when you're using to the beat of the music. You can go from slow to fast, or you can go from fast to slow. So you can mix it up either direction. Another strategy that is used in group fitness when you're doing beat-based is called the add-in strategy. And I use this a lot where you combo movements. And so you might teach one movement, like you say you do a squat movement, you get that down pat, and then you do a bicep curl for a while. And now you say, okay, we're going to combine the squat with the bicep curl. And so then you would do one squat, stand up, bicep curl, one squat, stand up, bicep curl. Or in some cases, you could do them, simultaneously, depending on the exercise, but usually do one on one. So it breaks down the skills and teaches the movement in isolation, each one, and then you put the two together. So it's another strategy that's used a lot. Repetition reduction. This is another strategy where, especially if you're teaching something that's more choreographed or complex, like step aerobics is an example of that, or cardio kickboxing. What you do is you do a lot of repetition. So I do this in my kickboxing class where I'll do like a jab punch for 8 to the front, 8 to the side with my left arm. And then I do that a couple times, and then I'll do 4 front, 4 side, and then 2 front, 2 side, and then single front, single side, single front, single side. I may even add a, right, left, right, get really complicated at the end. So this strategy, and then what you can do too is, like, let's say I'm doing 8 repetitions of the knee strike, 8 repetitions of the cross punch. And then because I basically paired 2 things together, and then I do 4 and 4, and then 2 and 2, and then 1 and 1. So this is a strategy to help people. See, if you started off with that really quick knee strike, cross punch combo really fast, it might be too much for people to figure out. And you're trying to get them to do repetition to get their cardio up. So you start with more repetitions, have them learn the movement with their brain and their body, and then you slowly taper it down. So it's a very common strategy. So 8 knee strikes, 8 cross punches, 4, 4, 2, 2, and then 1 and 1. And you don't have to go, you could do this twice. So I could do the 8 and 8 twice, that pattern twice. I can do the 4 and 4 like 4 times through if I wanted to. I mean, especially if you look around, you see people aren't quite getting it yet, or you want to give them a little more time to get it. Then, okay, then you do the anticipatory cue. And the anticipatory cue is just basically on the 5, 6, 7, 8. So when you're doing the knee strike, cross punch, 4 and 4, once you get to that end of that phrase, that 32 count phrase, and you hear the 5, 6, 7, 8, you basically say, okay, now we're going to do 2 knee, 2 punch, 2 and 2. So go down to 2. So however you want to say it, you give that anticipatory cue, and then you change the numbers. And then finally, you go down to 1 on 1. And that's helpful to do that when that music is starting to change. When you get to the end of that 32 count phrase, it's going to feel, their body's just going to feel like it wants to move in a different way because you've finished that phrase and you're moving on to something different. So that's a great time to change the repetition or reduce the repetition down. Simple to complex, this one I utilize all these strategies, but simple to complex, advanced teaching strategies called layering. So instead of separating movement patterns into sections, instructor perform one movement for a few repetitions and add another movement to the sequence. So different elements of variation. I use this a lot where I do the legs first, get that down pat, then I add the arms into it, and then I add in any advanced option. So, I mean, almost everything I'm doing simple to complex, especially if you're trying to show the baseline movement and offer options to advance it. But this also is helpful just because it gets people moving. Everyone can do the base move pretty easily, and then you can start to layer on those options they can pick if they want to add to it. So and it also helps people learn better. If you put too much in all at once with arms and legs, it can get a little chaotic. So I usually try to, okay, let's get the legs down. Now we're going to add the arms. Now I'm going to add the option to do explosive jumps with it. Now I'm going to give the option to, whatever it might be. I'll show you in class some different options, but this is a really great strategy. Other elements of variation, we talked about this when you're trying to create something that's more challenging, or less challenging, you can change the lever length. So a shorter arm or bent knee is going to be a little bit easier than a longer one. And you can do that in group fitness where you're starting to do a knee lift, progresses to more of a kick. So a shorter lever versus longer lever. And a lot of times you can just say, you can stick with the knees. If you want to put in a kick, you can add a kick. Arms overhead with bent elbows to arms overhead with extended elbows. Changing the direction can also, so adding or change the direction, perform movement facing front or facing side and back. I do this sometimes just for variation. I'll do jumping jacks to the front 8. Okay, turn to the right, turn to the back of the room, turn to the left. You might travel forward and backwards. So maybe I'm doing uppercuts, like a kickboxing uppercut, and I'm just doing it in place. Well, then I can now start to travel that and move forward with the uppercut 4 times and move back with the uppercut. Or I'm shuffling and I move, perform side to side, changes to shuffling forward and back. If you're doing more of a dance-based class like Zumba, you could perform front to back changes to side. So there's a lot of different ways you can change the direction people are facing to change the routine. Plane of motion is another one. I do this with kickboxing a lot. So kicking to the front, kicking to the side, kicking to the back. Front raises change. So you're doing your front raises to the front for your shoulders and you move out to the side. Changing the rhythm of, or speed is another one. So especially when I'm teaching kickboxing, I might do it slow first. So I'll go, what's one that I do? Jab, cross, jab. Oh yeah. Jab, cross, jab. 1, 2, 3, 4, retreat. I think a jab, cross, retreat. Jab, cross, retreat. And then I do a really quick, I think I'm forgetting it. But anyway, I have to remember. It's like I have to do it to remember it. I'm like sitting in my chair. It doesn't really work out. But you can do one move where you're doing it slow, and then you do it double time, you speed it up, and you can add a layer of complexity with it. So instead of retreating, I do like a knee and a kick or something like that. So you can change the rhythm and speed at any time, but it helps to learn it at the slower speed. And then you say, okay, now we're going to do it half time, single time, or double time. I do that a lot with the agility movements. I always show those in single time. So maybe agility where you go out, out, in, out, in. I just do it with the music, out, in. And then, okay, if you want to go double time, you go out, in, out, in. So you do 2 movements per count. So you can go slower and faster. So there's lots of ways you can speed up a movement. So, there's the double time. So you do half time where you slow it down. Single time is on the beat. Double time is 2 movements per beat. Rhythm could also be changed. 2 counts indicate the use of half time and single time movement in one pattern. Yeah, so you can mix those up. Okay, increase or decrease in step touch. Okay, so this one you could be doing like a step touch and turn it into more of like a log hop or a leap over. Range of motion increases in dance movements. That's pretty common for dance type classes. Knee raises or knee strikes change to a tuck jump. So you add those layers. And then there's different style approaches, whether it's more of a dance style based class or martial arts for kickboxing or athletic style. So you can definitely change that as well. So linear progression means that one move flows into another without specific patterns or combinations. So you're just doing one exercise and then the next one and the next one, and it just flows linearly. So an example is you have a base movement, 4 alternating knee lifts. Then you add arms, 4 overhead reach, 8 counts. Then you add direction or movement. So you travel forward 8 counts, you travel back 8 counts. So you're stacking on linearly. Transitions. So this one's a little tricky. So in a transition with a linear progression, you're like matching, meaning I complete one exercise in full and then I perform the next exercise. So I'm doing a barbell front squat followed by an overhead press. That's in a strength training class. I'm doing one and then I'm doing the other. This is considered, when they say high-low, they mean like a high or low intensity class. This is kind of an old school. Grapevine is an older school aerobic movement that used to be done quite a bit. You do the grapevine for a while and then you follow it by a single leg hamstring. So you're matching the two together. Now, mending strings 2 exercise movements or combine multiple movements into one exercise. So for example, a high intensity interval class, I could do thrusters, a squat, and an overhead press in unison together. Okay. Or if I'm doing reverse lunges, I could do a bicep curl. So when I lunge back, I'm doing the bicep curl. And when I stand up, I'm bringing the arms down. So I'm doing 2 movements together. I love doing upper body, lower body together because in the resistance training, if I'm either comboing or mending too, if I'm using my upper and lower body, then I'm more likely to get my heart rate up. So I kind of say it's like 2 for 1. You're getting your resistance work and you're getting your heart rate up. So I've done it 2 ways. One, I've like matched. So maybe I do a reverse lunge, I stand back up, then I do the bicep curl, then I do another reverse lunge, then I do the bicep curl, or I can bend them together. So as I'm stepping that foot back, I'm doing the bicep curl and I'm stepping the foot forward, I'm releasing my arms, and then other foot. So again, you can see the difference of you do 1 and 1, matching, or I'm doing them mending together. Now, patching is you perform an additional movement between 2 exercise or movements to help with transition. So in the beat-based, it's kind of like in dance, you might have a right foot lead and a left foot lead on an exercise. And what happens is if you're trying to do the right foot lead and then you have to switch to the left foot lead, you need to kind of even out your weight on your legs. And there's certain exercises that help you do that. So for example, if I'm shuffling to the right and shuffling to the left, and now I want to go shuffle left and first and right, once I get back to that center point, I need some kind of transition in the middle so that I change my lead foot, because it's going to feel natural for you if you've been stepping on your right foot, like out, in, out. If I'm keep stepping on that right foot, I want to keep, it's natural for that person to want to step back on that right foot, but now I want them to step on the left foot. So if you put a transitional move in the middle of that and you even out the weight, so there's not that tendency to want to step out on that foot, then that helps you transition to the other foot. So for example, let's say I'm doing like a step up on the step, and I'm leading with my right foot, going right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, up, down, down. Now, if I all of a sudden wanted to go, now I want to do left step ups. Well, my right foot's ready to go. As soon as I step down, that right foot wants to go. So it feels really awkward and weird to all of a sudden the instructor go, now left foot. And then the person, the people in the class are, what? They're not ready for that. So you need to find some kind of transition in order to change your lead foot. So some ideas on that is, let's say after the fact I wanted to do some alternating knees or some knee drives or something like that. So I could kind of patch a few things together all on that same lead foot, so I'm not changing back and forth. And then when I'm finally ready to switch to the other side, I might switch and go, okay, now I'm going to do some jumping jacks. Jumping jacks are a great way to change the lead foot because your feet now are moving in unison and they're together. Squats are another way because you have both your weight on both legs. There's no right and left. You're just going down and up, and the weight's even on both feet. Jump rope can be another way. You're just kind of jumping up and down with both your legs. So there's different ways to craft it so that it feels very natural to change the lead foot. And I will show that more in class. It's kind of hard to describe as I'm sitting here. So an example of a Pilates class to transition from the 100 to the rollout, the participants pull their knees into the chest to patch the two exercises together. That's an interesting way to say that. I think my examples are going to make more sense when we go in class, but that's okay. Dance, utilize a squat or shimmy, which are neutral filler moves to patch two different dance moves together. So we'll show that in class. So transitions are basically just this movement that helps patch two together so it feels natural to switch gears. Sometimes if you're traveling one way, it feels weird to all of a sudden shift into that different foot. So it has to flow a little more smoothly, kind of like a dance in the beat-based. So squats are a neutral move. That means exercise does not contain a right or left lead, as I mentioned. Neutral moves can be utilized to patch any two movements together to change from a right to a left lead. So I guess I just explained that. Great. So 2 knee strikes right counts 1, 2, 3, 4 can be paired with the squat. Then you're stepping down 5, 6, 7, 8. Then you change to the left knee, 2 knee strikes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then squat 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's putting that neutral move in the middle. So it feels natural to switch to the other side. Although the knee strikes aren't too incredibly hard to switch because you're stepping down and then your feet are pretty neutral there. So thinking about what other new moves can be neutral movements, the lunges wouldn't work because those do have a right and left lead. Jumping jacks I use quite a bit. Jump rope. What else do I use? I might just do like a small run in place, kind of reset. Maybe, and I'll put a little question in the lecture for you all to think of other ideas that can be a neutral move. So your cueing strategies are in the beat base is that anticipatory. You're signaling a change that's going to occur. It shows up within the music. It's supposed to be very urgent, very concise, and like you might even just say this is, jumping jacks, whatever it might be coming up next. So you want to get them prepared to do. And this is really important. What you don't want to do is say the name of the exercise when they're supposed to be doing it on the 1 count. You got to let them know in advance. And so people that have classes that's real easy to follow along, they're really good at this anticipatory cueing. I got really good at this because I taught dance before I taught fitness, and I used to teach younger kids. And so when I was trying to teach them the dances, I had to say these anticipatory cues like way sooner than normal because they were younger kids and they were just learning. So let's say I was teaching like a tap class, and I'd be like, now here comes the shuffle step. So I had to like really get ready for that anticipatory to tell them what was coming next and even give them a visual preview of what was coming next. That's another strategy, anticipatory visual preview. So when you're teaching a group class, an example would be if you're counting down, say you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 5, 6, 7, 8 is where the anticipatory cue is. If you're counting down 4, 3, 2, 1. So you're telling them we're getting ready to change something. Right, 4, 3, shuffle to the right. And sometimes I just say it with a beat of the music, so it kind of like gets them prepared of when they're ready to do it. Instructional is exercise setup, how to get into position and get ready to do it. You want things to be clear and concise. You can say things about their posture, their alignment, safety, execution, giving modifications and options and progressions. Examples would be, okay, keep your chest up, chest open, hips back, toes face forward, shoulders away from the ears, whatever it might be. Then once you get them moving, you're following up, you're creating positive change, giving people feedback, corrective cues, positive, that I guess motivation would be positive encouragement. You can utilize visualization and imagery to enhance the movement, adding additional options and modifications if you see anything that people are needing. And then just giving them, maybe emphasizing those instructional cues again if you see some alignment mistakes that need to be corrected. And then finally, you're doing motivational cues where you're giving people praise and providing challenge, encouraging them. So just helping give them more energy and positivity and encouragement, motivation. So some cueing considerations, the instructor orientation, we talked about this earlier. You can either face away from your participants, and if you have a mirror, that's fine because then you can see people in the mirror, and it's a little easier for people to follow along with you because you're facing and moving the same direction they are. But if you want to mirror your participants, you want to turn around and face your participants. And so in that case, if I'm facing my participants and I'm going to shuffle to my left, I need to tell them to shuffle to the right. So we're all moving together. It's super confusing if you face your participants in a beat-based class and try to do the opposite arm and call that out. It's very confusing. So if you're facing and mirroring, which is great because you have like a good eye connection with people, a lot of times I would do my warm-up facing and then I would turn. So it just depends. Like certain classes, like a mat Pilates class, I'm always facing my participants, and more like a music beat-based class where I'm moving very quickly, I'd have a tendency to face away and face the mirror, but then sometimes I'll turn and face the class. And then if I do turn and face the class, I'm using the mirror technique. So if I'm doing bicep curls, I'm facing away, I'm doing right, and they're doing right and left. And then when I turn around and mirror them, now I'm need to use my left arm when they're using their right arm. So it's like they're looking in the mirror, and that makes it easier for them to follow. Then you're going to work on your voice quality. Hopefully you have a microphone if you're playing music so that they can hear you okay. And you're just working on the clarity of your voice, your pitch, your speed, your contrast, and how you say things. And that's important to get feedback on that and make some changes if needed. So there can be some issues in a group fitness class when things get really crowded. There are regulars that have spots and it can get kind of crowded, and there can be issues involving with sharing space. If there's any sort of harassment or threats, that's something you want to report immediately. Ask for, be open to feedback, try not to take it personally. And if you're having trouble filling your class, it's always important to kind of ask people for feedback and adjust your teaching style based on that feedback so that you can cater to what your participants are looking for. I just had someone I was talking to over the weekend, a friend of mine who takes classes, and she's like, yeah, the guy's kind of like a boot camp style instructor. He's all women in his class. And she's like, I'm trying to tell him, like, look, you're not teaching a bunch of men that want a certain thing. Like, we just want to be healthy and not get injured. And we like really need it. We want you to kind of tone it down. And she was getting a little, I don't know if she's like a little frustrated because she was like, yeah, he needed to realize like, this is your population. You have a group full of women. So we need to start, utilizing and choosing exercises that are going to work for us. Not these like heavy powerlifting things that maybe he would do personally. So just some of those things, like you got to kind of look at who your participants are and what they're asking for, and then give them what they're looking for. Not necessarily what you would do. Avoid instructor burnout, just kind of thinking about the number of classes and the style and the location. I've definitely been there before, whether it's like a certain class or a certain style of class that I wasn't interested in anymore, or even just a location of a place that was just causing me to dread going to work. Then it was just time to move on. So some issues that can happen is lack of equipment. So you want to make sure that whatever exercises you're choosing, you have enough equipment for each person. If not, you might try doing it in pairs where like half the room uses the equipment and the other half does something different, and then you switch. So there's not some concern. There's plenty of times in my class where We have a limited amount of the little Pilates balls and the big stability balls. And so if I have too many people in my class, I just don't even use it, because then I don't want people to be upset that they didn't get to have the piece of equipment. They're being left out, or I don't want people fighting over equipment. Location preferences in the room. So there are people that are regulars. They really like their special spot. And so if new people come in and they get in that spot, they get upset. And you can help mitigate that by, introducing yourself to new people, helping them get set up, helping them find a space. If you do see some conflict going on, you can come over and just step in and go, okay, we all can do this. Let's all share the space. Let's move this over here. Does that feel comfortable for you? So just get yourself involved so they're not taking it upon themselves and getting argumentative. It's just kind of come in as the person in charge and saying, okay, we're going to create enough room for everyone. Sometimes that's not always possible when it's a really big class and people are coming in very quickly, but music is really important. Music volume. I definitely have some people like it loud, some people like it softer. I've definitely had some critique on my music being too loud. And definitely, I remember one person came in and they used very explicit lyrics in their music, and man, everybody went off. Even people that, like, I know this lady, she's so hilarious. She cusses like a sailor all the time. She's like, I don't want to hear it in the music. So it was like professional space. Like, you do not want explicit lyrics, period. Just make it clean. Partner exercises. Usually people tend to like partner exercises. Every once in a while I run into issues, and there's this one gal who's always like, no one wants to be my partner. And I feel like it's like legitimately like one of those like childhood traumas or something, where they're just like just waiting for someone to like not be their partner and then be upset about it. So what I usually try to do is, if I know that's an issue, I'll kind of turn and be like, hey, how about you two be partners, and get that going. Or you can, if there's not enough, like let's say there's one person left out, you have to figure out how to make a three people partner. Some person might have an injury and they can't have a partner, and so you have to find a way for them to do that. So there's all these unique things. Partner exercises can be fun, but there can be a little tricky if someone is like, no one ever wants to be my partner, or they don't, there's three people instead of two, there's one odd person out, or if they have an injury and they can't do all the exercises. There's a little tricky things you have to get through. Odors have been a big deal, where someone comes in, they're really stinking up the place, and you have to have a conversation. What I would do in that case, if I was a group environment, is just let the management know and then say, hey, how do I handle this, and see what their approach is, because you don't want to step on the management toes on that. Any interpersonal issues, intercultural nuances that are happening, just really be that article we talked about, being inclusive and being sensitive, is really just kind of understanding that people are coming from all different backgrounds. And you might have someone that's really religious that has a certain viewpoint on certain things, or the way that they dress, and the type of clothing that they might wear that might be an issue for the type of class that you're teaching, or interpersonal issues that can come into play between participants, even different genders having different preferences on workouts and things like that. So there's just a lot of things to kind of consider. Like, not everybody's the same, not everybody's looking for the same thing. People have different preferences, different backgrounds, different experiences. And so we need to just be sensitive in different skill levels. And so we just need to be sensitive that not everybody's going to come to you and have the same experience or the same goals. So we need to kind of figure that out so we can help support them. For sure, if there's any kind of harassment, or someone says that someone in the class is harassing them or threatening them, you want to bring that to the management immediately to take care of. We should really be the quiet professional, resolving issues as quickly as possible without becoming emotional or drawing into the drama or the conflict. Like, just kind of be neutral party, figure out what's going on, and try to problem solve. So If you do request feedback from your participants, you can share an email address or any type of communication channel through social media, or they can just come up to you before or after class. Sometimes with the MindBody app, people do leave reviews, so you can check those out. They can leave feedback with the front desk, and a lot of members do. They leave feedback to the front desk, and then it's up to the managers to let instructors know. Sometimes they've had done evaluation surveys in the past. You will get evaluated typically from a supervisor, and you'll meet with that supervisor to go over your performance evaluation. And also, a great idea is if you have other instructors taking your class to give you feedback. That's always very helpful. Attend the classes of other instructors, ask them to come to yours, and then solicit feedback. So, ways to avoid instructor burnout. If you start to get really disinterested in exercise and teaching classes, might mean that you're kind of getting burnt out. You have lack of motivation. You're not preparing for your classes. Maybe you're feeling a little depressed. Other overtraining issues, not getting enough sleep, elevated resting heart rate, fatigue, changes in weight. All those things can be signs that you're doing a little too much, or the amount that you're doing is causing you to burn out. So it's important for you. I know I was teaching a lot when I was younger. I mean, I was teaching a lot of fitness-based classes, and I started to get burnt out because I was doing too much of the same style. And so I just started changing the different styles that I was teaching. I did aquatic, I did Pilates, I did yoga, I did HIIT type training, I've done step. So to avoid burnout, I just try adding on different styles and mixing it up. And then there's certain ones over time that I'm just like, I'm just not into that anymore. I don't want to teach that anymore. So I stopped doing certain ones and focused on other ones. So you just have to kind of go with the flow, see what you're interested in, and see how many classes works for you. And if you feel like you're overdoing it and it's not fun anymore, then you need to reassess and figure out what changes you need to make.